a final running event. The women's 10,000 meters, they're the collegiate NCAA and best time in the country. These are 4 points. The top 8 finishers of this 24-woman field will score. And this race features 5th-year senior Dominique Scott Eford of Arkansas.
Had a terrific career. We'll touch on her as we get started. So we're talking 25+ laps at this track, longest race at the Olympic Games on a track. There actually are not too many of these run around the world. They used to be in the Diamond League races in Europe, and they've cut back on them, so there's not as many opportunities to run in those. And so you have to pick your spots to qualify to get to the Olympic Games, because there are qualifying standards for that. And the qualifying time at the Olympic Games to get there to it for any country is to run the 10K in 32 minutes and 15 seconds. 2 athletes here have already done that. American Chelsea Blas from Tennessee has run 32:08 for a 10K. And the fastest, Dominique Scott Eford, who is right there on your screen with a ponytail, and the maroon of Arkansas. She's had a terrific career down there, and she is wrapping up her collegiate career with this race. 31 minutes and 56 seconds. She's the fastest in the field. She's not interested in leading. She's staying out of traffic there, just sitting there. And that works out to a 5-minute, 9-second per mile pace that she's done at her best earlier this year for 6.2 miles, running almost a 5-minute mile. Pretty darn impressive.
And they're doing my least favorite thing, and that is they're jogging and making it so athletes have to get way out in lane 2 and on the edge of lane 3 in order for each of the 24 of them to have some running room.
The smart thing, though, seriously, if I'm a coach, you tell your athlete not to do that, in my opinion. I get kind of strident about this point because nobody's going anywhere. The pace is moderate. You can stay with the peloton or the group, even if they're not behind. They're far enough back to be a peloton. Just sit back, and you're only going to be 10 or 12 yards or meters off the pace. Instead of running 7 meters longer in lane 2, lap after lap after lap, it's hurting your overall time and diminishing your chance to score points here at the NCAAs. Pace is quickening just a bit after an opening lap of 83 seconds. My goodness, that's slow. It's about a 5:35 mile pace that they were going at. For them, that's easy.
And as we've mentioned, there are 24 athletes in each of these running races. 12 each have qualified from the Western Regionals 2 weeks ago in Lawrence, Kansas, and from the Eastern Regionals in Jacksonville, Florida. And obviously they're not going to run heats in the 10,000 meters, so this is the only final on the track on ladies semifinal day. So they're starting to spread out a little bit better.
Alice Wright has decided to push things from New Mexico. She's part of their excellent cross-country team, and from Gloucester, England is she, and said it's the best decision she ever made in her life was to come here with the camaraderie and the talent and the training that she is working under down there under head coach Joe Franklin. She's run some shorter races to quicken up her speed and get sharp this year, which you need to do for a 10,000 meter race, and it's the right tactic when you get in a field like this. You're better than everybody else, but as her point is, on a given day you've got to worry, especially if you're running slowly for most all of the race and you get some good kickers in behind you. I think that she won't let this tarry too long, and what I mean by that is she's not going to wait till the last lap to see what she can do.
Did we mention that she's from South Africa? I think it's probably obvious with the accent that she's not an American athlete.
She's got an interesting backstory, Dwight, in the sense that there was a gal who ran, a woman who ran for Lance Harder and had a successful career from South Africa, went back home and started looking around locally at the talent, following the sport, saw what Dominique was doing in her home country. She ran 9:40 for 3,000 meters. She ran a 4:28 1,500 meters, translating to under 4:50 for a mile, and contacted Lance Harder and said, you know, this is a talented gal. And so they had conversations, and As a high schooler, she had been running very well. And long story short, she got enamored with the idea, maybe I can have a successful career in the United States. Maybe also I can get my degree that way, and it has worked out extraordinarily well. Long story short, she has contacted another young lady who lives over there, has Dominique, and they're having somebody else from South Africa join their team as a freshman this fall at Arkansas.
10,000 continues, but the NCAA championships also continue tomorrow with our coverage of the NCAA Outdoor Track and Field Championships, Friday, June 10th at 8:30 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. For more information on the NCAA Outdoor Track and Field Championships, log on to ncaa.com, the official online home for all 90 NCAA championships. It is men's final day tomorrow, and as I've been mentioning periodically, switch over, or excuse me, get your tablet, get your phone, whatever device you want to use while you're watching the race here, checking out ESPN3 and our field event coverage of the women's long jump, the shot put, the javelin, and the pole vault, all going on right now.
You're looking at Chelsea Blas from Tennessee, and she's closing out, excuse me, she's a junior now. She's got some eligibility next year. But go back a couple of years ago when she first joined the team and as a freshman, and she struggled, and she just said, I just wasn't getting it done. I just didn't feel right. It was a very emotional time for her. And finally, the coaches sat down and talked about the fact that she's got ability and talent. She's got the right drive. Long story short, over that summer, she was a changed person. And she has just done nothing in the last couple of years but get better and better. She and Dominique have kind of dominated over the last 2 years the SEC cross-country title, with Dominique Scott winning. But Blas has gotten closer and closer and finished higher up at the NCAA cross-country championships. And the time of 32:08 is really terrific. And that comes out to a time of about 5 minutes and 10 seconds, a little bit more than that, 5:10, almost 5:11 per mile. And she will head to the U.S. Olympic trials with a very good performance and a culmination of very hard work for the last couple of years that has paid off very well for her. Also in the race, Syracuse, they built up a terrific men's and women's cross-country and distance running program under head coach Chris Fox, himself a former star down at Auburn and a great distance runner, and he's really got a very fine team. And she is just one example of this whole thing. She is an ACC champion last year at 10K, has a personal best of 32 minutes and 29 seconds. She's right now sitting in 5th place, and Peliquin is in 2nd. There you see her bib number in front of her. The pace now 78 seconds. They've definitely quickened things up, so the ladies are running at a very honest pace here.
Alice Wright of New Mexico continuing to lead, and as often we see, Dominique Scott-Eford very happy to just follow along. She has great sprinting speed. She's run sub 4:15 for 1,500 meters this year. And she does have the leading 10,000 meter time amongst the college ranks in 2016. Also, she did not have eligibility during the indoor season. The previous year, she really led the team to their very first women's NCAA title in school history. I was so surprised to realize that great institution had not won an NCAA title in any sport at Arkansas until they did so at home in the 2015 indoor NCAAs, and that Dominique Scott-Eford was a big part of that. She did not have indoor eligibility in 2016, but she did have outdoor eligibility, and this is her swan song, her final race in an Arkansas uniform.
You're looking at Brenna Peliquin. Whoops, almost problems there. That's what happens when you're all clustered in there. Peliquin, one of the distance athletes that they've been building up at the program there at Boise State under head coach Corey Immels, who has been there now just for a couple of years and has definitely made some strides getting top talent in there. Immels himself a sub 4-minute miler in his day. Pace is honest at this point.
So Alice Wright continuing to press the pace, but plenty of athletes in this race as we come up with about 17 laps remaining. We will step aside for a moment and return to Hayward Field for more 10,000 meter coverage. Salukis rule in the women's hammer as we get back to the 10,000 meters. 13 and a half laps remaining. Not a lot has changed. Alice Wright of University of New Mexico continues to lead. Brenna Peliquin of Boise State there in second. Dominique Scott-Eford currently in third. Chelsea Blas is also up there from Tennessee. We've watched those two battle for a couple of years now in the SEC.
Alice Wright, just a junior, and as I mentioned earlier, came over and has just been thrilled here with American training and the development with top teammates as far as how she's come along well. Her lifetime best 32 minutes and 36 seconds, so she's just outside that window of 32:15 if she wants to be considered for the British Olympic team. She's got to knock some time down off her best either here or in some other meet that she could possibly compete in the next month. But she was the under 23. They have a championship over in Europe in track and field called the under 23 championships. That's how old, of course, you can maximally be. We have a junior program in the United States where you can't have turned 20.
Well, weather is an issue down here, and the meet continues. And let's go down to Jill Montgomery for a report.
Well, yeah, it has been raining, but I wanted to talk about Dominique Scott that you see right there sitting third in the black bottoms and the maroon top with her blonde ponytail. As you said, that this is her 5th year. I talked to her earlier yesterday, and I said, are you sad? I said, are you going to be upset? Are you going to cry? Are you going to miss it? She said, honestly, I'm ready to go. She said, it has been such an amazing journey. As you know, she did sit out the indoor season just so she could come back out here and take part in Arkansas's last outdoor season for her. So we have seen her quite a bit, but she said, I'm ready to move on. I just got married. I'm going to go start my life.
And she married a fellow she met on the team here, Cameron Eford. And she's hyphenated her last name, and everybody planned this a good year in advance. He actually proposed at a major track meet down in Fayetteville at the Tyson Indoor Arena down there, and they had the ceremony over the holidays in South Africa in her hometown. So hats off to them. We actually showed a little bit of that on television, Dwight. It was a pretty cool movie. Get down on his knee in front of family and friends and the whole deal, and gave her a ring right beside the track.
So again, we still got the same 4 leading: Alice Wright over Brenna Peliquin, Dominique Scott, and Chelsea Blas. The conditions are not great for spectating or for field eventers, but this is probably not terrible conditions for distance runners. Low 60s. It's a little bit wet, a little bit of rain, which is annoying. You know, this meet has been here in Oregon for the last 4 years. It's got another 4 years to go minimum, and the World Championships are going to be held here in 2021, which will demand a major renovation and an increase in spectator seating.
They have probably lost over the last mile and a half of this race about half of that pack that was up there. You know, while we have a minute, let me just touch on a little interesting thing. Women were shortchanged dramatically in track and field for the longest of times. It was a male-dominated International Olympic Committee, and they suppressed the women's opportunities. As late as 1984, the 3,000 meters was the longest race contested on the track. And it was the marathon that really got things rolling along. And the Avon Company, which makes a lot of women's cosmetics, got together with Catherine Switzer and a number of other top runners of the day and said, we will fund you to go around and try and give women the opportunity. Long story short, they developed some major marathons all over the world where they got lots of women to turn out and run. It impressed and pressured the International Olympic Committee to start moving major races in the early 80s. And it wound up having them institute at the 1984 Olympic Games for the first time a women's marathon before there was even a 5,000 meter race or a 10K race or a steeplechase race. Amazing. Joan Benoit Samuelson just teed it all up, and distance racing for women finally took off very quickly after years of being suppressed.
A little more than 8 laps remaining, so we will step aside. When we return, we will show you the conclusion of this 10,000 meter race, a race for actual team points, the only final of the day. Don't forget, we will show you in highlight form the decathlon as it progressed through these 2 days in tomorrow's men's final. That starts at 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. Obviously, we have half the races that we have had over these last 2 days because no more semifinals, all finals starting tomorrow at 8:30 Eastern.
Dwight, 5 laps to go. They continue to quicken, each lap being run now at about 78 seconds. It had slid back to about 79 and 80 seconds per lap. So right now they're running at about a 5-minute and 20-second per mile pace. The ladies are striding along at. And the lead pack, as they have continued to hold this pace, we've had people dropping off the back of that bus. And here goes Chelsea Blas moving up to begin probably a bit of a power surge in the pace. 8 athletes up there. And one thing's for sure, Chelsea Blas certainly knows all about the speed and what can be done with Dominique Scott-Eford.
Well, I was just about to say, we've been watching Dominique Scott-Eford for several years now because we cover the SEC extensively, and we've watched what she can do off of pretty much any pace. And when you're running at this pace, as Alice Wright has been doing, and she's worked hard right from the gun, you're playing right into Dominique Scott-Eford's wheelhouse. She's got the speed. She hasn't had a ton of races outdoors, and this group of about 8 women right here are getting ready to break through. 1 mile remaining, 4 laps in this race. Dominique Scott right where she wants to be. She can control things from there. They're going to start to go past lapped runners, which she can use to her advantage. But she can just sit right here and react to any move that is made. Chelsea Blas right now getting herself a little boxed right there as they're going to start to go around lapped runners. And the real racing is going to begin very soon.
You know, these athletes, there was a great quote by Juma Ikanga, former winner of the New York Marathon, great marathoner. The will to win is nothing without the will to prepare. And these athletes, talk about preparation. Nobody prepares longer and harder, in my opinion, certainly on the track, than do 5 and 10,000 meter runners because of cross country, the hours you put in, and the pace has definitely picked up. This is going to be very solid last mile watching them. And so this is the culmination for the collegiate season. The dedication and the time management, I can't overestimate how hard it is. They're terrific students for the most part too. Distance runners are. You'll notice strong cross-country teams at the best universities in America where it's the hardest to get in. And they just deserve a real tip of the hat for the training and effort that must go in. Frequently 2 workouts a day on top of strong academics. So we all salute the runners here at distance races that put in such long hours, train summers on their own, and put in hard workouts in cross country of anywhere from 50 to 80 miles a week in training.
Well, after 22 laps, a change at the top. Tara Jamison of Iona now in the lead, and Dominique Scott-Eford just stays right there. We're seeing Alice Wright now slip back into about 6th, but still in that lead pack of about 8 runners. Remember, 8 runners score for their teams. 10 for first, 8 for second, then 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 down to 8th place. And you've got all the scores right there in that group as they're going to start to come up on runners that they will be lapping.
Iona has a strong distance program. The men have done very, very well in cross country. The women have had some excellent athletes as well. Tara Jamison is from Wicklow, Ireland. She's got a best of 33 minutes and 38 seconds. And she is running better than that easily right now. She will be heading for a personal best here. Now coming up to 2 laps to go.
And at 2 laps to go, that's when Dominique Scott-Eford obviously decided she was going to go, and immediately she put 6 or 7 meters on the group behind her. Those are the scores right there, but Dominique Scott-Eford has made her move, and no one really has reacted to it with any significance. Chelsea Blas trying to mount some type of a reaction, but Dominique Scott-Eford continuing to pull away.
Well, this is easily within a minute of her comfort zone from a standpoint of what her best was earlier this year at the Peyton Jordan Invitational. And so it's easy for her. It's easy to look good at this pace while the others are not as good as you. And she does look terrific and comfortable. Look at the margin she's opened up in about 3/4 of a lap. Not even that, 2/3 of a lap.
Yeah, and that margin is easily up to 35 meters with a little more than a lap remaining. Lapped runners are moving out, which is very good for Dominique Scott-Eford. And looks well within herself, very mechanical with her running, but looks very, very much within herself.
Chelsea Blas leading that pack that is still together. It's going to be quite a battle down there. That's the group we're talking about. It's going to be interesting. We've been watching them for 20 minutes to see how they wind up shaking down here with a lap to go.
Dominique Scott now almost a 50-meter lead, and certainly on the way to the 10,000-meter title that she was hoping for. Her final collegiate race for the University of Arkansas. Chelsea Blas has now opened up a little bit of a gap in second, and then Alice Wright now in third. She led most of the race and now is in contention for second, third place points.
68.6 for the last 400 meters with 2 laps to go from 2 to 1. That's what Scott has run, and that works out to about a 4:36, 4:38 mile pace that she dropped in. And she is still maintaining a very solid pace. Watching her, she looks like a metronome out there. Legs pounding away. Blow some kisses to the people cheering for her.
Dominique Scott-Eford now coming down the straightaway and about to win her 4th overall NCAA title during her career at Arkansas. That includes a distance medley relay title at home when they won the team title. Alice Wright is hanging on for second, and Hannah Everson of Air Force third. But Dominique Scott-Eford goes out on top as a Razorback.
And Hannah Everson gets a personal best comfortably there. Congratulations to her, and thank you for your service in the military. She's going to become an intelligence officer in the Air Force when her days are finished here. She is a senior. This may well be her last race.